All right, today we're doing something a little different. We're essentially putting the entire financial system on the operating table. And I'm not talking about the day-to-day stock prices you see on the news. Nope, we're going way deeper. This is a systems-level diagnosis of the actual machine that runs our modern markets. So let's get right into it. Our journey starts with a line from the source material that is just impossible to ignore. The silent victory of 2025. I mean, come on, right? That sounds less like a dry financial report and way more like the title of a spy thriller. It immediately makes you lean in. And that, of course, leads us to the big questions for this entire explainer. What exactly is this silent victory? And, maybe more importantly, who is winning it? Well, to even begin to answer that, we first have to pop the hood and understand the machine itself. So let's do that. First up, the market machine. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? Before you can diagnose any problems with a system, you have to understand how all the interlocking gears are actually supposed to turn. Here's the central argument. At their very core, markets have kind of evolved. They're not just a simple place of exchange anymore. They've become this incredibly complex machine. And this machine, it isn't really designed for creating long-term value. Instead, it's optimized for three very specific things. Velocity, we're talking lightning-fast, high-speed trading. Leverage, which is making massive bets with borrowed money, and extraction, which is just a fancy way of saying pulling profits out of the system as fast as you can. So how do these gears work in the real world? Well, for one, they're designed to reward sheer size, scale, way more than they reward a genuinely good, innovative idea. They create incentives for everyone to move in the same direction, coordination, rather than encouraging productive, independent activity. And this is the real kicker. They've built systems where the biggest players can actually profit whether the market goes up or down. You put all that together, and the line between responsibly managing risk and just making a massive gamble gets really, really blurry. Now, to get how this machine really works, we have to understand one key component, the derivative. It sounds complicated, I know, but the concept is pretty straightforward. It's just a financial contract whose value is derived from something else. So think of it like this. Instead of buying a stock, you buy a contract that pays out based on whether that stock's price moves up or down. But here's the crazy modern twist. A lot of derivatives these days aren't even tied to a company's success anymore. They're tied to market volatility itself. They are literally bets on the amount of chaos in the system. And that is a critical shift. So this brings us directly to the flaws in the design. Because when you build a machine that's optimized for nothing but speed and leverage, you don't just get efficiency. You also get new, dangerous, and systemic risks baked right into the very architecture of the whole thing. And this slide really nails the difference between the 2008 crisis and today. Back then, let's call it the dynamite of excessive leverage, was hidden away in these really complex, opaque things tied to the housing market. It was in the basement. But today, that same dynamite is being sold right on the front lawn for everyone to see. It's openly traded in the form of these derivatives that are just bets on pure market volatility. The risk hasn't just moved, it's become the main attraction. Our source material boils all this down to three core flaws. First, so much of the profit in the system is completely untethered from real-world production. It's money being made without actually creating companies or jobs or real goods. Second, you have these two-way profit systems where huge pools of capital can win no matter which way the market turns. And third, well, it's the oldest story in the book, isn't it? Socialized loss, privatized gain. The profits are kept by a few, but when the system inevitably breaks, the losses cascade down and are paid for by the public. But look, these aren't just technical flaws you'd find in a textbook. They have a profound human cost. And that leads us to what might be the biggest problem of all, a full-blown crisis of trust. What happens when people feel like they're not engaging with a fair market, but are just cogs in a cold, uncaring machine? This is such a critical insight right here. Trust is the invisible infrastructure of markets. We don't really think about it, but trust isn't just a nice to have. It's the actual foundation. It's the steel and concrete that holds the entire structure up. And when that foundation starts to crack, the whole thing is in jeopardy. So when does that foundation start to crack? It happens when people start to get that feeling that the game is rigged. It's when they suspect that the rules can be changed right in the middle of the game. It's when they feel like their losses are permanent and unfair, while other people's losses get covered. And it's especially when they feel like the whole system was just designed from the start to benefit a small group of insiders. That is when trust doesn't just fade, it completely evaporates. All of which brings us to what might be the single most important and honestly uncomfortable question in this whole analysis. It's the one a lot of people are afraid to even ask out loud. Do markets, as they are structured right now, do they actually still deserve our trust? Okay, so where does that leave us? Well, this final section isn't about offering up some simple solutions. Instead, it offers a path to inquiry. It's about arming you with a sharper set of questions so we can all start to diagnose the system for ourselves. We need to start asking really simple mechanical questions. Forget the drama, forget the personalities, just ask, how much of the money floating around in the system is actually borrowed money? It sounds like a boring data point, but it's the one that tells you exactly where the explosives are hidden. Here's another great one. When the system is under stress and people are being forced to sell their assets, who is on the other side of that trade? Who's providing the cash to buy it all up, and what do they get in return? If you just follow the money during a crisis, it tells you everything you need to know. And finally, this is a crucial question about power. Where exactly does the official public regulation end, and where does the private discretion of a trading platform begin? In a moment of total chaos, who really has their finger on the off switch? That line is a lot blurrier than most of us think.
And this final thought from the source material just perfectly captures the whole challenge ahead of us. Truth does not shout, it connects. The real story of how the system works isn't going to be found in a sensational headline or some loud opinion on TV. It's revealed when you quietly start connecting the dots.
Ultimately, the goal here wasn't to give you all the answers. It was to arm you with better questions. Because understanding this financial machine, that can't be a job that's just for the experts anymore. It's for everyone. As the source material says, the inquiry begins now.